So, implementing change needs three pillars: politicians, companies, and citizens. Today, we have the extreme pleasure to welcome on stage with me this key triad to understand the dynamics of today's change. Adam Woodhall, spokesperson for the now very famous citizens movement XR. Eva Sadoun, co-founder of LITA, a company which permits to every citizen to invest in social and environmental societies. And Alexander Makela, head of engagement at Good Lobby, a civic startup which helps and trains citizens to influence decision-making. So, I will begin with the first question to all of you. According to you, why youth and citizens are essential actors to be integrated into our decision-making process? And please, if you give a concrete and successful project that you worked on, it would be wonderful.
Wonderful. So, for me, and really grateful to be here. I was here at the last ChangeNOW as well, and so it's fantastic to be a speaker. I've been doing moderation. And for me, what Extinction Rebellion is all about is it's actually, for me personally, the only logical thing I could be doing, because the science is very clear. And what we need to do is tell the truth. That's the first demand of Extinction Rebellion. And then we need to act as if the truth is real. And so I'm acting as if the truth is real by devoting most of my time volunteering to Extinction Rebellion. And the analogy that I take is that it's our house is literally on fire, as evidenced by the Amazonian fires, the Australian fires. And it's like basically citizens around the world have been for the last 30 years picking the phone up and going, hello, fire brigade, yep, we'd like you to come and put our house fire out, please. Sorry, you're saying that you have to come next week? You can't come? So what? Now, the thing is that we can either accept that the fire brigade isn't going to turn up until next week, or as citizens, we organise and we demand that the fire brigade comes now. Or we organise and we create our own way of putting the fire out. And that's why I'm delighted to be with these guys, because we're working together to put that out. And that's obviously what Extinction Rebellion did back in our big campaign that happened in London, which I was part of and was privileged to be able to organise, was getting pink boats into the middle of the big shopping district and getting grandmas gluing themselves to Parliament Square. And the important thing, though, is that actually what we were all about is not just breaking the law for the sake of it. We did that because what, for me, feels as though that there was nothing more that we could do, because we were shouting and talking about this, and the fire alarm was going off, the house is burning down, and there wasn't enough action happening. So we needed to do something more. Now, what I would say is that, yes, join Extinction Rebellion in whichever country you're in, if that feels good for you. But the key thing is what I want to bring as my message is you have permission to go out and sound that alarm and take action on trying to put that fire out. So that would be the message I give.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, pleasure to be here. I think engaging citizens and empowering them to participate in decision-making processes is important because it actually puts a counterbalance to corporate interest representation. Before joining the Good Lobby, I was a lobbyist at a company called Facebook. I think some of you might have heard of it. It was facing a few challenges last year. But the importance of having citizens in the decision-making process is because they bring in expertise and knowledge about the challenges they face on a local level. And by involving them and civil society organizations in decision-making processes, we get a bottom-up approach that's, well, it's fit for purpose instead of a prescriptive top-down approach that we tend to see. One of the examples that might be one of the most successful ones, especially probably most appreciated here, How many like the fact that when you're traveling across Europe, you don't have to pay for roaming anymore? Like, that's pretty cool, right? That happened because there were a couple of young people working with our founder, Alberto Alemanno, and they did something called a European Citizen Initiative, where they collected 1 million signatures around Europe, and they basically forced the European Commission to make a legislative proposal that then went through, and as of, I think, a year ago, we now don't have roaming anymore. So as even a small group of citizens, in the case of ECIs, you only need 7 around Europe and 1 million signatures, you can actually influence legislation and change the course of Europe to some extent.
Hi, I'm Eva. So I'm the CEO of a company that think that if you reinvent some model, it's the way we're going to change society. And for us, it's really important to empower citizens into the decision-making process, more specifically in companies and in the financial sector, because it's so dogmatic sectors and young. And when I started my company, I was like 22 years old, so I know about entering a sector when you don't know and you don't understand anything, and you think to reinvent it, because as you are so innocent, you can reinvent this sector. So we think that empowering youth into the decision-making process is great, because they have no biases and they can really reinvent and rethink a sector. And also because we think that the major problem of our society is the opacity. Is, as they call, the Prometheus mismatch, meaning that we cannot act as we want because we don't understand how all the machinism is working. We don't understand how the banking system is working. We don't understand how the political system is working. And if we enter this political, this economical system, it's the way we will understand it, and it's the way we will change it. So this is why we decided to work on making people activists inside companies, meaning that they can invest in those companies. This way they change finance, they reorientate the way the money is invested by really reorganizing this flow and reinvesting in those companies that really change the world. And that they are also, by becoming shareholders of those companies, they are doing some activism. I can give you an example. For instance, we financed a company making jeans locally at a period where all the politicians were closing all the firm. Because it was not like competitive, and so this company is really rebuying those firms. And this action, where at the first it was only a crowd equity campaign, they raised €1 million to finance this company, and then they did some press, they did some political action, and the government answered to us and created a fund dedicated to relocate some of their corporate investments. So we think that action with also press and cosmetic social media action could be a really great way to empower citizens into the decision-making process.
Thank you. You just talked about the social media. So according to you, what role should social media play in this transition? Alexander, or?
Well, I mean, as a former Facebook employee, I have seen how social media can be used, and not just Facebook, but across different platforms can be used to mobilize people. But I think the next step that we need is going away from just awareness raising and organizing demonstrations, but actually using that network we have, those communities we have online, and leveraging them in a strategic way to influence legislation. So for instance, if you have a movement of 1 million people and you get 1% of them to respond to a public consultation, for instance, with the European Commission, you're already giving them more traffic that they ever see for any legislative proposal. So in a way, what we need to do is we need to go away from awareness raising and actually implement it by bringing in academics, by bringing in lawyers, by bringing in seasoned lobbyists to support these type of movements, so we can use these online communities in a strategic and more long-term way.
So what I'd suggest is that actually, let's get this the right way round. That it's not about social media which is going to create the radical and rapid shifts. It's social media which can be the kind of like place where we share how that's happened. Because the thing that was very interesting is the rebellion that happened in London in April last year was run by about 3,000 people maximum. So that's all the people that got arrested, all the people that organised it, and some were doing both. That's a tiny number of people, but it got incredible traction. But to be honest, we've don't maybe report this back too clearly, but our social media is not like world leading. But what is world leading is the passion for people to get out on the streets. Now, just imagine if we'd have had 30,000 people involved or 300,000 people involved, how that can make an impact. Now, the thing because when it comes down to it, social media, it's comfortable. There's this concept of clicktivism. It's really easy just to kind of go, oh, I don't like the Amazon burning down, and click, I'll sign this petition against Bolsonaro for his nasty policies or whatever it is, okay? But the key thing is actually, if, for example, you're Australian and your house has literally just burnt down, do you think that you'd want to go out and do something about it? Because that's what's going to be happening in all our lifetimes. None of us here in this room are not going to be affected by climate change and ecological breakdown. So it's basically, do you want a little bit of discomfort now, which I took when I was doing that, and some of my colleagues really took because they were willing to get themselves arrested. Do you want to take some discomfort now, a minor amount, to help stop massive discomfort, like houses burning down, families dying, as has happened in Australia, due to what's coming at us? It's happening, and we've just got to take that realistically. So social media is just about letting us know what we could do, not about the driver for it.
Yeah, we think that social media is quite powerful, but it needs to be accompanied with actions. I mean, when it's only cosmetic actions, it will not work. If we want our political system and if we want the decisionary to take really action, we need to do so too. Because if we do cosmetic action, they will do cosmetic action, and it's an answer and question about who is making the best and the more beautiful cosmetic actions. So this is the first thing I wanted to say. The second one is that social media could be really powerful to spread information. And this is what we see, that social media, it's a really great tool to democratize some really complicated subject, like for instance, finance, that it's really like the less sexy subject in the world. And actually it's the more important subject in the world, because if you want to succeed the transition, I mean, we should invest $1,000 billion each year, and it's finance that can do so. For instance, in France, we have 5,000 billion savings that could be reoriented in those transitions. But we need to do so if we understand how the finance is working. So social media could be really powerful to really do this democratization and this information process, and also to put things on the table, to make it visible to everyone. And also in the financial system, it's really important, because as it's a really opaque sector, I mean, if a financial product was a packaging box, you will see like a black totally box. I mean, we don't have any information on how the financial products are really structured and really qualified information. So social media, and we will use that in a few months, because we are launching an app that will analyze all the environmental impact and social impact on global finance. I mean, every money you have on your current account, etc. We'll analyze it and make it public, and make this environmental and social impact public. And the social media will be really powerful to do so, because we saw that many NGOs are working on that topic for 20, 30 years now, and they didn't succeed to really do an action, I mean, in the financial sector that is really transforming the system. And we think that it will be the play of citizens, and through social media, to do viral campaign and make this really bad information public and viral.
Thank you. So the next question I would like to ask you is, did you notice some concrete evolution recently that give you hope?
Well, it was fascinating, because I've been personally looking at issues around climate change, ecological breakdown for 35 years, really, and definitely particularly for the last 30 years. And as I say, for me, Extinction Rebellion, when it launched in November 2018, was the only logical thing I could get involved with because there was just no change happening. And actually, so the big change that has happened is that I can get on stage as a rebel, supporting somebody, so an organization which is directly breaking the law. And, you know, we're at a polite, nice conference, but I've not broken the law, but I've got plenty of colleagues who have. And that's kind of been seen as okay, number one. But the thing that's much more important, because our tactics are actually not that important. What's important is the outcome. And the outcome is that I can talk about breakdown, crisis, catastrophe, emergency, houses burning down, deaths. That 2 years ago, that wouldn't have been that kind of acceptable. It would have been like, because the thing is that people were very uncomfortable with the truth, and we're still uncomfortable with the scientific truth of what's actually happening. And it were more comfortable with taking that on, because it is a very uncomfortable truth. So that's the progress. What's happened is that we are starting to tell the truth. And we have made some movements towards acting as if the truth is real, such as the French government, such as I know the Dutch courts have legislated recently. But the action is still really small compared to the necessary radical and rapid action that we absolutely need. So I'm both inspired by everybody that's making things happen, such as Greta and the school strikers and people that are on the panel. But we need literally all of you. Every single one of you in this room needs to work out how you can commit at least some of your time and money, not just money and not just collectivism, but time as well, to getting this to work, because our house is burning down.
So, first of all, completely agree. I really do think that I'm an optimist. I think that the sense of urgency and the action that we're seeing from young people, from citizens, it's inspiring and it's going to lead to something. That said, I've also seen a change where people are becoming more interested in like legislative procedures, political procedures. With the European elections last year, we saw an increase in voter turnout. We saw more people on the street. We saw more people asking questions. How does legislation work on a European level? And what we do at the Good Lobby is we try to demystify the idea of lobbying, to make it more accessible for citizens. And we're seeing a larger appetite for it. People are actually wondering, how can I participate in my democratic society between the 4 or 5 year election cycle? And the truth is, there are so many ways you can participate. There are administrative avenues. You can do judicial. You can campaign, much like you're doing, or you could become a financial activist. So I do see optimism there. And one of the things that we're trying to do at the Good Lobby is, as I said, demystify lobbying, skill sharing, as well as connecting academics, lawyers, public affairs consultants with citizens, with social entrepreneurs and progressive companies, so they can actually have an impact. So for instance, if any of you in the room want to get help in terms of addressing a legislative issue, a political issue, feel free to reach out and we can probably connect you and match you with a lawyer who will help you for free. So there are tools, we just need to use them.
I have a great opinion on how things are really working, because I saw that on a political level, they really integrate those subjects, for instance, and I think that the actions that we all make are really working and ringing a bell. Lately, because I'm also the co-chair of Tech for Good France, that is an association gathering tech for good in France, and we saw the new stock exchange that the government put it in place, only promoting big unicorn, big companies that are raising a lot of funds and not really measuring their social impact. So we did an action, a collective action, saying to the government, this is the how you want to evaluate your company. This is how you want to support a sustainable European economical model, etc. And this action really worked because after on this stock exchange, they integrate some ESG and impact criteria to select those companies, and they want to promote at a European level this model of tech for good that could be a great exclusivity for the European model. So we think that it's working when we are talking about subject that doesn't imply them so much. But when we talk about hard subject like finance, I'm sorry to come back, but it's my passion. When we come to those subjects, it's really poor what has been done. And even if banks and a big financial institution talk about how they're doing some sustainable product, etc., when you look at it really deeply, it's really not that different from what it used to be. And we need to support actions like the panelists that will come right after, that doing some shareholder activism, because if we are not changing really strongly how the financial model and how the political model is working, will not change everything. So this is why I wanted to end saying that it will not really change if you and the initiatives that we are developing are not becoming powerful. And if we really want to change the model, we need to become political and economical agents that are powerful. So I'm sorry, but you all need to go work on companies and on the political level if you really want to change the thing, because it will not be activism versus political and politician and activist versus company and decision makers. So you need to become that person. So this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you. A last word? Okay.
Just one very small point. I've been at events like this, done speaking before. People come up to me afterwards and think, oh, thank you so much, Adam, for the work that you and your colleagues are doing. And my answer is, don't thank me. Join me.
Yes.
And join these guys and join everybody. Join those movements, can make a difference. Join us now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You can applaud them.